Okay, good. Okay, so this is advanced delay, and the delay in Soundtoys is Crystallizer, it is PrimalTap, and it is Echo Boy Junior and Senior. And Crystallizer is just this really cool delay that people don't use often enough. And essentially, it is a granular echo synthesizer, and it samples the input, it pitches that input, it puts delay on that sampled pitched input, and then you have recycle, which is sort of feedback. But it has a lot of other really, really crazy features to it. A lot of people know it as sort of this shimmer effect, but it does a lot more than that, and it has this wonderful gate duck feature here. So if anybody is on a smartphone or a tablet, this unfortunately will not work. But for everybody else on a desktop or a laptop, this should work fine. These are always recorded for later viewing, and we'll let you know right after the webinar via email how to do that. So let's start here. Can people see and hear the mandolin? Yes? Okay, beautiful. So here I was in a kind of a Led Zeppelin mood, feeling a little Led Zeppelin and a little folky. What the folk? So I broke out my mandolin, and here we have Crystallizer. So Crystallizers is on insert, and it can be wet-dry mixed. You can also use a send and return matrix if you want. They work both equally as well. And essentially, again, what this is, it is a delay for sure, but what makes it unique is that it can sample the input. You can change the length of that sample with the splice control. You can change the pitch up or down 3 octaves, and then you can set the delay setting, quarter notes, eighth notes, etc. So let's first just listen to this beautiful mandolin part, which is just an apple loop. And then let's see some of what Crystallizer can do here. It is epic. How amazing is that? That is the default setting when you put on Crystallizer. Right there, that's a song, or at least an intro for me. Exactly, it's pure love. That's why I asked everybody at the beginning today, do you use Crystallizer? Do you use PrimalTap? Because if you don't, this is such a creative place to play. And it's not your grandfather's delay, unless your grandfather was super cool. So this is the way it starts here with this reversed setting. There is a reverse switch that goes up or down, so it can go forward or reverse. And if you want to lock it to tempo, you want to flick that MIDI switch up. So now let's get into that's the way Crystallizer starts off there, but it doesn't have to be reversed. We can actually flick that down so that it's forward too. So right now, it's sort of like a regular delay, right? No pitching going on yet, and we're at 0 cents. So now let's see what happens when we start to pitch. And it goes up or down 3 octaves. So 1 octave would be 1200. And you can type, which is a lot quicker than trying to land it on the right number. And this effect was born out of the H3000 from Eventide, and Ken used to work at Eventide. So this was, the H3000 was sort of the first fun digital box that had all kinds of crazy effects. So this was inspired from that, but then they took it much further and really acoustic guitar. It's been on so many records that everyone here grew up with. You probably just didn't know what you were hearing. You probably didn't know you were hearing either H3000 or a Crystallizer. And so that sort of shimmer, very typical shimmer effect, the crystal echoes effect, which is sort of when people think of this, they think of it as being sort of a one-trick pony. But it's not. You're going to see it. It's a multiple trick pony. But this might be the most typical kind of sound that people are used to getting is to pitch it up either an octave or 2 octaves, add some delay and some feedback, and you sort of get this wonderful cloud of crystalline pitched echoes. Okay, so there's all kinds of crazy, combinations of longer splice, shorter splices, longer delays, shorter delays, dense sort of feedback clouds or simple feedback. And you can make a huge variety of sounds with this Crystallizer. Now, you can also get into some crazy dynamically driven program dependent modulation. And this is, more of a sort of an advanced technique, but this is where you get incredible life out of this thing. So on the left is a threshold knob. And that threshold is listening to the dynamics of the input signal. So now over on the right, we see a dial that says gate duck. So it's a bipolar knob, which means when it's straight up, it's not active. It's not doing anything at all. So right now, it is not active. If it goes counterclockwise, it goes into a gate mode, where you will constantly hear the effect. But if you set the threshold so that it's tickling the input signal, it will open up the gate and give you the effect. So better said, if it's in gate mode, the effect is gated. You don't hear anything. And if you set the threshold just right, it will open up the gate and give you the affected signal. Duck is kind of the opposite. Duck, you're always hearing the effect, and then the input signal will duck the affected signal. So you can make these very cool, dynamically triggered effects, and then when we open up tweak mode, you'll see that you also have an attack and release to fine tune it. So these are my favorite effects, which is using these gate duck function with the threshold. You notice it there. You turn the threshold to be all the way insensitive, and then you take the gate duck knob to gate mode, which means that the affected signal is gated. What's going to open up the gate is going to be the dynamics of the input signal, and we can set the threshold and also the attack and the release. This is a dope effect. Isn't that cool? Isn't it a wonderful toy? Yes, it is. So the key here is to have a very sensitive threshold setting and try to make it so that the threshold is just tickling the input signal is just tickling the threshold and crossing the threshold back and forth to make that sort of activity. If it doesn't cross it at all, you won't get any of the gate effect. And if it's always crossing it, you also won't hear the gate turning on and off, which is sort of the fun of this effect. So when we open up tweak mode, we have attack and release. And this really helps getting the envelope right, whether you're ducking or you're gating, right? So here's the fine tune. There's some scary stuff down here, but it's nothing too scary. There's a pitch offset. These are mostly stereoizers to make more left and right difference, right? To make it even more pronounced stereo effects. So with the pitch offset, it adds a pitch to one side and subtracts from the other to create a bigger difference of pitch between left and right. Splice offset is the length of the granular chop. So that can also delay or sort of offset the left and right to create more difference. Same with delay. So these are all sort of stereoizing offsets inside. And then there's a little bit of smoothing. There's 3 feedback modes: mixed, the left's going to the left and the right's going to the right and the left. Ping pong goes back and forth, and dual mono just keeps them discrete. And then you can duck the output, the feedback, or both. So, not too scary of a tweak mode here, and also tone controls, a high cut and a low cut, which is nice because sometimes, especially when you're pitching things up, you get a lot of high frequencies, can be a little rough on the ears. So you can take that high cut and kind of mellow out the artifacts you get from creating the effects. And you can hear the pitch offset can be subtle, or it can take it to like an absolute almost horror movie, right? So there you go, Crystallizer. Amazing. Yeah, it's psychedelic and it's beautiful, and the design really is cool because you can get all kinds of crazy effects, and it's quite amazing. Okay, let's do this. Let's move on to PrimalTap. This is, today we're doing the very exotic delays. Tell me if everyone can see. Can everyone see PrimalTap? Yes? Okay, good. Okay, so this is from the 1979 Prime Time, which was a vintage digital delay. But this one was built with performance in mind. And I don't mean that it performs well, but that you can play it like an instrument. And Daniel Lanois, there's a lot of YouTube videos that show people playing a PrimalTap like an instrument for entire songs. So it's incredible, actually, what this is. So this is a digital delay. So it's digital delay. It is a dual delay, and the A and the B are the left and the right. There is an adjust knob, which is a sort of a pitch adjustment knob. There is an LFO rate and an LFO depth, so you can modulate the delay with LFO. And then there's this crazy multiplier. And the multiplier, what it does was, back in the day, if you wanted a longer delay, you had to chop your sample rate in half. So if you had a longer delay, you have to chop your sample rate in half, which means that for these long delays, you start losing high frequency. It's sort of like bit reduction almost, sort of kind of thing. So you end up with these very lo-fi delays, and then when you flip between the settings, you get this R2D2 kind of crazy digital gibberish that's super incredible for dubbing, for like techno, anything like that. It's incredible. So when you perform this and you flick between the settings, you get these weird artifacts that are beautiful, and it will inspire you to both perform them and also to automate them. PrimalTap is really cool as a static delay. You can set it and forget it. It does work like that. But the real craziness, the primal beast, comes out when you start to perform it and play it. So there's A and B, there's link settings, there's the modulation section. In the feedback section, you have A and B feedback, two separate feedbacks, and you have this green input knob. That green input knob is a drive knob, and it's a saturator. And what you see about a lot of these beautiful sort of old vintage digital units is that there's a softness to them. Sometimes you think of vintage digital as being the 80s and being trashy and metallic sounding, but these actually are very smooth and warm. And they're smooth and warm because the old digital technology couldn't really capture ultra high frequencies. So there's sort of a built-in high cut or a roll-off that creates a lot of warmth. So you can use this just as a saturator by driving that green input there. And then there's a wet dry mix, and there's an output. And then down here in the tweak mode, there's different kinds of feedback algorithms: classic, parallel, reverb, series, crisscross, and ping pong. And then you can also do some tone adjustments on either the feedback or the output, so that there's a roll off there as well, a low cut and a high cut. You can flip the phase on one side, and you can change the VCO shape: triangle, square, sine wave, ramp. So that's sort of the setup here. Now, the fun part comes when you hit freeze, when you hit the freeze button. And the freeze button samples the input, and then you can use the adjust to change the pitch, and you can also, modulate it and all kinds of other things. And then you can start flipping the multiplier, and you get all kinds of crazy, crazy, outlandish effects. So let's listen to this crazy, crazy PrimalTap contraption here. So right now, all I did was I hit the freeze button, and it sampled that whatever the length that the delay was set to. Now, the wet-dry mix, that little green slider, is in the middle. So we're hearing both the unaffected signal and the affected signal. But when you start to do more performance things, it's more typical to go all the way wet, because then you can just get into your own world, which often happens with playing with Soundtoys. Now, so far we've been locked to tempo, right? We've been locked to the host tempo, but you can switch from a tempo-based delay to a free delay just by hitting time, and now you get a smooth transitions. You're not jumping between quarter notes and eighth notes and 16th notes. You can have a smooth transition between delay times. Right, so all kinds of crazy things that you can perform or automate, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and how just important it is when you're mixing, and we do this in next level mixing, where a mix really isn't finished until it's decorated, until the transitions have handmade decorations. A basic mix is cool, but a basic mix is basic, and in next level mixing, we spend an entire week devoted to Soundtoys, learning, phase mistress and how to use chorus and flanging and modulating filters, Filter Freak, and PrimalTap and Echo Boy to create handmade transitions. And it's funny because it's a little bit where mixing and mastering meets sound design meets production. It's not pure mixing and mastering. It's sort of sound design. It also becomes an arrangement thing. But making your transitions really handmade, and not everything is this quantized thing where the A section snaps into the B section like Lego, that doesn't sound like finished music, and it doesn't have any quirky human loose ends to it. And the Soundtoys collection, mastering the Soundtoys collection, really getting to know all the things these things can do is part of finishing music. You know, we all have all this unfinished music, but at Mix Master Wide Academy, we're in the finishing business. When we mix it and we master it, it's done. But it's not done until they're really beautiful handmade transitions. And really, this stuff gives you an incredible performance aspect to your mixes that brings them to life. Okay, so now we're in this multiplier thing. So as I said before, when you throw the multiplier on, it cuts the sample rate in half, and you get into this lo-fi space, which is so dope. And that's that very warm saturation that you can use. And some people use this just for that, with no delay, just to get that. You'll hear it. It's an overdrive, but because that the old digital technology just wasn't capturing that much high frequency, it's incredibly warm. It's a dirty, warm saturation. Who doesn't want dirty, warm saturation? Come on. And, there's no need to have also A and B be linked. They don't have to be linked. They can be unlinked, which makes some very crazy stereoizing effects as well. Okay, so there you go. PrimalTap, right? Just incredible. Um, uh, and you, yeah, this you can do. There's two ways to go about this PrimalTap madness. And I've seen both work really, really well. Some people like to just kind of perform and open up a track, record that track, and just perform human performance with a mouse or a controller, and you can get some really amazing results with that. And if you sort of jam, if you will, for 10 minutes, and then you chop out the best moments, that's a wonderful approach because things don't have to be perfect and controlled. You can just let it all happen. If you keep recording, you're going to capture some magic, and you're probably going to capture something that you couldn't have done intentionally. You might be just grabbing a knob and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh. And that's the really wonderful thing about Soundtoys, is that in our school, we really do strive to know what everything does and how it all works. But it's a toy on purpose. They call it a toy, and you play with your toys. It's not, reductive EQ. We know exactly there's a method there. This takes a degree of playfulness, and it also takes time. I saw people on the chat, a couple of people say, I'm never going to finish a song once I start playing with this. I do have friends that started playing with Soundtoys and never finished songs. But the fact is, if you go to a trade show and you're at the Soundtoys booth, everyone comes to Soundtoys. Every genre, it's hip hop, if it's progressive house, if it's techno, if it's dance hall, country music, everyone's at the Soundtoys. Everyone is at the Soundtoys booth, and everyone agrees that Soundtoys is just this incredible collection of these quirky, curated pieces that have been, designed and then uber designed sometimes to do things that the hardware that inspired it couldn't actually do. So it's a great time investment to learn the entire Soundtoys collection. And again, in Next Level Mixing, which you can take as either a live training with classmates that meets twice a week, or you can take it as a video course. And then you still get to come once a week to office hours that are exactly like this and ask questions and play your tracks and get feedback from all the super cool people in our school. So I'm going to take a couple questions in a minute, but I have two more questions for you. And then we'll hang out and take some questions for a minute. And let me look in the audience. Let's see. Mitch from Soundtoys, he was threatening to stop by. We'll see if he actually makes it. He said he had a crazy day, but he does like to randomly stop in and say hi. I don't see him yet here. Echo Boy, so here's my question. And let's go to the polls again. We're going to do Echo Boy and Echo Boy Jr. as a separate webinar, but I have some questions for you first. Or a question. So here's a quick poll. How well do you feel you know Echo Boy? It will help me in making the presentation for the Echo Boy and Echo Boy Jr. webinar. Vote, vote, vote. Okay. A few gurus, just a few, a couple experts, a lot of people pretty good, some people not too good, but nobody's clueless. Okay, good. So what we'll do is we'll put together some very advanced Echo Boy material for you, and we'll let you know when that is. It'll be coming up in a little while now, over the course of the summer for sure. Well, listen, I hope everyone got to see a little bit more Crystallizer and PrimalTap, and I hope it inspired people and opened up some ideas on how to use this stuff and the different possibilities. And again, I would say this, and then I'm happy to take some questions. When people oftentimes, when they come up and they mix in my New York studio, they'll come up and they'll do the mix, and then they will say, all right, the mix is basically there. I'm just going to take the mix home and just play with these transitions, and I'll be back in 2 days. And I don't usually see them for usually 10 days or 2 weeks, because making transitions takes time. You can do reductive EQ. You can do all kinds of, even adding reverbs in a rush. But when you play with Soundtoys, you can't say, oh, I have 15 minutes between sessions. Let me make this transition. It will hide from you if you don't give it time. So essentially, really, one nice way to use these things is to loop a transition 2 bars before the transition, 2 bars after, and take out some Soundtoys and continue to save as, because these things can be quite sensitive. And just play until you really believe what it is. Maybe you take a hi-hat and put it into Crystallizer, and you can dub or create or automate these transitions and makes for some really wonderful transitions. We have a course that's only open to graduates of the program called Mixing Shootouts. And in that class, it's limited to 4 people. We mix for a month, one song a week, and we compare mixes as the week goes on. And now in that class, it's not good enough just to have good level balancing, just to have good EQ, good saturation. I'm requiring everyone in those mixing shootout classes to make beautiful transitions, which again is a little bit of production, a little bit of sound design, and a little bit of mixing and mastering. But when we listen to these really top class finished productions on Beatport, Spotify, in every genre, there's a level of handmade, sound design, production, Soundtoys, modulating effects. So it's absolutely a great, opportunity to get into learning all these modulating effects. So, okay, I said I would keep everyone for about an hour today. These run usually about an hour. Let me make a couple quick announcements here. Let's see here. And I think I need to... Something has been... It's funny with the presenter mode. You will make me all proud. So let's do this. For whatever reason... Okay, here we go. So... let's get a browser here. Now, if anyone has any questions about anything, all questions will continue on our Mix Master Forum, and I'm going to put that in the chat. And this is the world's only forum dedicated to mixing and mastering. That's the link there. Can everyone see the forum? Yes? Okay, good. So any questions about Soundtoys or anything about this webinar or anything mixing and mastering, please go to our forum. There are lots of super smart people posting there all the time, and we can continue the conversation from this webinar there as well. Okay, let me take questions. Let's first, any questions about the presentation today first? Let's start there, and then we can do about 10 minutes of questions, and I'll stay extra late. And anyone who has to go, thank you for coming to the webinar. This is what we do. If you love mixing and mastering, you love music production, you want to get stuff finished, You want to attend a school with the most up-to-date technology and the best student experience, it's Mixmaster Wide Academy. We are number one, and it's for a reason. We care so much about what we do, and we're always making little improvements. We have an incredible student body. So if you had a good time today, this is the way you like to learn, please check out the school. We have self-study video courses. We have live trainings, all kinds of ways to learn. Okay, so that's that. Any questions about today? Crystallizer questions, PrimalTap questions. Yes, we have many members from the school here today. Many wonderful, passionate, cool people. We will email you shortly after the webinar with instructions on how to rewatch the webinar so you can watch it again. Yeah, Crystallizer on ARPS is magic. And really start to use Crystallizer, use that gating ducking effect as well. Super, super helpful, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can automate this stuff all day. Like I said, there's two real approaches. You can perform them or you can automate them. And I've seen students have really good success at both, and I do both. Sometimes I just record enable a track and I goof around for 10 minutes and I take the best moments and I chop them up and I slide them around, and I never could have done it on purpose. Other times I have crazy big automation parameter events that I tweak over time, tweaking the automation until everything behaves. They both work. They really do. Yeah, I know, Justin. I know. It's coming. I know. It's coming. Hopefully soon. Big people like the big knob, and it's coming soon in my life too. I was waiting for some of our beta testers to test it out, but everyone's saying that the water is fine and to jump in and swim. Good. Other questions? Anything? No? Crystal clear? You guys ready to go play with your Soundtoys? Okay, good. Crystallizer clear. Good, Vlash. You're good with the mixing and mastering humor. All right, everybody, listen. I hope you're inspired to go use Crystallizer more, to use PrimalTap more, to make transitions, perform them, automate them, and don't be scared to sweep around and have fun. Thank you for coming today. Any questions from the webinar, please continue on the forum with us. And anything you need from the school, please hit us on the live chat. We're always around. We can answer any question on the live chat. We're always there. All right, everyone, have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you online. Cheers.